That is the story for a lot of African Americans. And a lot of times when you don't have an identity, it's really difficult for you to know kind of where you're going. You feel kind of lost in this world. But W.E.B. Du Bois wrote in his poem, Ghana Calls, I lifted up mine eyes to Ghana and swept the hills with high hosanna. Above the sun my sight took flight, till from that pinnacle of light I saw drop down this earth of crimson, green, and gold, warring with color, drums, and song. If you may or may not know, W.E.B. Du Bois did spend his last days in Ghana. There's a museum that is still there where he lived, his tomb that you can go and visit. W.E.B. Du Bois had a very close connection with Ghana, as we see a lot of African Americans in present day having a strong connection to the Ghana, to the point where they are actually relocating and permanently moving to Ghana. It's no secret that there has been an influx of African Americans making their homes in Ghana. There are a lot of videos out, there's information out there of experiences that African Americans are sharing with other African Americans who also have the desire to move to Ghana. And although African Americans are moving to various countries in Africa, Ghana seems to be the country that most of the African Americans are being drawn to and really going to, because they are welcoming their arms to any African American who wants to make Ghana their home. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the reasons why African Americans are relocating to Ghana. And then if you are an African American that have the desire to move to Ghana, what do you need to kind of make sure you understand and know before you make that choice? I do have a video called Relocating for Love, which is a different type of relocation, because relocation for love is of course you're going to be moving there with someone else that's from Ghana. You're going to be moving with your husband or boyfriend who is Ghanaian, so that's going to be a different situation versus a lot of African Americans who are just literally picking up their lives and relocating to Ghana without knowing anyone there in that particular country. So reason number one that African Americans are moving to Ghana is because they feel led to, they feel connection to the country, they feel connection to the people. As African Americans, we know it's very difficult for us to pinpoint exactly where our ancestors came from. In my family, particularly on my dad's side, every time we have a family reunion, we always go with the family history, and we're able to trace my family to a certain extent, but there's no type of records that shows where my family was before they got shipped to different areas of the world. So we have no idea where in any of the African kingdoms could my family have came from. And that is the story for a lot of African Americans. And a lot of times when you don't have an identity, it's really difficult for you to know kind of where you're going. You feel kind of lost in this world. But a lot of African Americans are really going back to Ghana and feeling connection to the land and feeling connection to the people, because they can say to themselves, even though I don't know precisely where my ancestors from, I do know they probably came somewhere along this coastline somewhere, because that's where the slave posts were right along the West African kingdoms, along that slave coast area. And so they can at least say to themselves, my ancestors might have stepped foot on this in this country, considering that it had a very huge and well-known slave castle that held slaves until they were shipped to various parts of the world. So a lot of slaves had to pass through that area. So even if they might not have been from Ghana, at least there might be a possibility that they would have had to go through there in order for them to, to be ready to be shipped to different areas of the world, and in particular the United States of America. So a lot of people, when they go back, they automatically feel the connection to the land, they feel connection to the people, they feel connection to the stories, and so they feel like they're home, and so they want to continue to live there. The second reason why African Americans are moving to Ghana is for business opportunities. Ghana is a growing country, and there are a lot of opportunities that African Americans can make in order to start a business for themselves, to make a living. And it's very difficult for Black people to start businesses in the United States of America. It's also difficult for them to sustain those businesses as well, because with Black-owned businesses, the whole purpose is for you to get support from your own people. And a lot of times Black people are not supporting Black-owned businesses, and Black-owned businesses are having to compete with mainstream businesses. So it can be very difficult. Of course, there are Black-owned businesses that are being successful, but then you have some that are not as successful as they could be if they had more people to support them, or if they didn't have to compete with so many other mainstream businesses. So there are some African Americans who are seeing Ghana as an opportunity for them to be entrepreneurs, and they are going there to start their own businesses, such as in the restaurant business or the clothing business, or any other type of business that they feel like that they can start up in order for them to make a living in Ghana. Because it's, like I said, it's very difficult for them to do that in the United States of America. The third most important reason why African Americans are moving to Ghana is because they want to feel safe. They want to get up in the morning and they want to just live. They don't want to have to worry about violence being put upon them, or they don't want to live in fear. And in the United States of America, Black people are living in fear of their lives all the time. In 2020, when the world saw the murder of George Floyd, and the world rallied around Black people, which was a first of the world really rallying around Black people and really seeing what they had to go through on a day-to-day basis and the violence that they've had to endure, I think Black people really thought there was going to be a change, that there was going to be, the pendulum was finally going to move in our direction. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. Nothing changed. There was no reform, there was no law, there was no bill passed to protect the Black community from that ever happening again. And it's still happening. There's still violence against Black people now. And I think some African Americans are just tired of being oppressed. They're tired of just not being able to do what they would like to do, because there is fearful of something happening to them, something happening to their families. But in Ghana, you don't have to worry about that. You know, I can walk the streets of Ghana and know that I'm not going to be accosted. I know that I'm not going to have someone just calling the police on me for no unknown reason. I'm not going to have to worry about a police officer harassing me or harassing my family or anything like that. We can walk anywhere. We can go on the trotro. We can take a taxi, and we can just live. And some African Americans are ready to live. They're ready to just relax and be a person and not have to constantly be reminded that we're Black, because in Ghana you don't have to worry about that. Everybody is Black, and they don't even really associate that term there. Everybody's Ghanaian there. You know, that's kind of how it is. Of course, they know that I'm not from Ghana when I go there. They know a foreigner when they see one, but even then we're not treated really any differently than they are, and we can just live our day-to-day lives. And I think some African Americans are just ready to just live like everybody else. So if you're an African American who is thinking about going to Ghana, I think it's important that you have to remember that it does take a lot of planning. It's not something that you can just get up and do. You definitely have to know what you're getting yourself into. You do have to know that Ghana is a third world country, so things that you're used to in the United States of America is going to be definitely difficult in Ghana. It might not even exist in Ghana. I live overseas, and there are a lot of things that I don't have here that I definitely miss from the United States of America, but you have to learn to adjust to that. And I think some African Americans who have tried to make their home in Ghana and it didn't work out, it's most of the time because they had these expectations that were not realistic. And I think you have to definitely be realistic when you're moving to Ghana as far as what you're not going to have there. So there is a lot of information out there for any African American that is interested in permanently moving to Ghana. It is something that is on the rise, and so you can find the information all over YouTube. You can research also online. Ghana also has something called the right to abode for any African American who has lived there for at least 7 years. You're able to apply for a right to abode type of status where you don't have to worry about visas. You can live there indefinitely. You don't get a citizenship, that's not what it is, but at least some of the restrictions that other people have to deal with if they have to go to Ghana, you don't have to deal with if that's something that you want to do as well. But it is a process. It takes a very long time, and of course you have to live there for a pretty long time before you can apply for that. And if you ever want a place to call your home, when you get tired of the place that you're at and you want to come here and just be, Ghana is the place that is definitely a place that you can come and be welcome. All right, you all, that is all I have to say on that topic. I am Michele Mazelleغ. Thank you all for watching. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next video. Bye.